My girlfriend chose her best friend over me. Then karma hit her. Her best friend started stealing from her, physically assaulted her, did drugs, and got her evicted from their apartment. Now my girlfriend is broke, jobless, and homeless. She is begging me to take her back. I feel so happy to see her like this. AITA for refusing. I'm 28M, who was dating Kelly 27F for 3 years, planning to propose with an engagement ring and a luxury vacation. However, her best friend, Nat 27F, was always a problem. From the start, Nat disliked me and tried to break us up by falsely accusing me of cheating and convincing Kelly I was controlling. This caused many arguments, but Kelly always defended Nat. In January 2024, I reached my limit. We were celebrating my birthday, and Kelly invited Nat despite my objections. Nat dominated the conversation, talking about her financial issues. I asked Kelly to intervene, but when she tried, Nat accused her of not caring and then attacked me, calling me controlling. I lost my temper, calling her a manipulative bitch. Nat physically assaulted me, leaving bruises. The day was ruined, and back home, I gave Kelly an ultimatum. Either me or Nat. Kelly argued it was unfair to make her choose. We fought, and when Kelly said I provoked Nat by insulting her, I told her to leave. After threatening to call the cops, she finally left. I packed all of Kelly's belongings, including everything I had bought for her since she had lived off my money for 2 years. I texted her to pick up her things, and when she arrived, I handed them over without speaking. Later, Nat texted, calling me a jerk for keeping the gifts. Kelly also texted, calling me stingy. Angry, I sent her photos of the expensive engagement ring and vacation tickets I had bought to show what she missed out on because of Nat. Then, I blocked her. In September, Kelly showed up at my place looking awful and begged me to take her back. She admitted she had made a huge mistake. After we broke up, she got her own apartment but realized how manipulative Nat was. Nat kept guilt-tripping her into giving her money and eventually moved in with Kelly after getting evicted. Things got worse. Nat started using drugs, invited shady people over, and Kelly noticed cash and valuables, including her grandmother's necklace, were stolen. When she confronted Nat, Nat physically assaulted her, and 2 days later, Kelly was evicted because of Nat's behavior. Now homeless, jobless, and broke, Kelly apologized, saying she would do anything to get back together. I felt a sense of satisfaction and told her it was karma for choosing Nat over me. I asked her to leave, threatening to call the police if she didn't. Kelly told mutual friends, and they think I was too harsh given her situation. They suggest I apologize or even consider taking her back. Now I'm conflicted. Should I apologize to keep the peace with my friends, or am I justified in not taking her back or apologizing? AITA? Update 1. Thanks for all your opinions and suggestions. I've decided to talk to Kelly once and for all and tell her to leave me alone. I'm going to apologize for taking pleasure in her misery not to please my friends, but just because I want to get over with this as soon as possible. I've set up a meeting at a busy public place tomorrow. I also took the advice of my elder sister. I've always turned to her for advice. I'll update and let you guys know how the talk goes. I'm hoping to close this chapter of my life forever. Peace. Update 2. Hey guys, I'm back. I took some suggestions from the comments and met Kelly a few hours after writing the post. I realized by reading a few comments that I was in the wrong for holding my financial problems as a point of contention. I told Kelly that I was sorry for how I responded to hearing her struggles. I also said that I had struggled to come to terms with the fact she had chosen Nat over me. I said that it was not possible for us to get back together, but that I would help her for old time's sake. I've decided to help her with the rent for a small place for 6 months. I told her not to get her hopes up about getting back together. I also told her that if she got involved with Nat again, I would have no choice but to withdraw my support. She got really emotional and apologized for everything that happened and promised to stay away from Nat. She expressed her gratitude and told me that she'll respect my wishes this time. We parted on a good note with her thanking me for caring for her after everything she had done. A few mutual friends came to know about our talk a few minutes after we parted. Some called and chastised me for not taking her back. I was done with them at that point. I've cut the 3 of them who said that I was an entitled jerk for not taking her back. I'm hoping that this is the last update. I might update a few months later if anything develops, but hopefully Nat stays out of the way this time. My girlfriend went to an after-party with a coworker without me. Her coworker told me I wasn't invited. I suspect they are having an affair. Reddit, AITA for breaking up. I 24 meters and my girlfriend 23 feet Anne began dating in college. Last week, Anne invited me to her coworker's Joe party. I had heard a lot about him in the past, and he and she really seemed to have a lot in common, especially with their taste in music. Apparently, he was an amateur musician with a fairly successful YouTube channel. Joe initially invited only Anne, but when she asked him if I could tag along, he said it was fine. The party was on Saturday evening. It was a fun party with about 30 people, held at a restaurant Joe had rented out. Towards the end, though, I wandered into Anne's little discussion group, and I immediately got the feeling that nobody really wanted me there. Most of all, Anne. It was her, Joe, and a few other people. Thinking that I was just imagining things, I hung around and listened to Joe basically boast about himself the whole time. A little while later, I wandered off to get myself a drink and chat with a few other people. Eventually, the time to leave came around, and I went to find Anne again. Joe approached me at that point and said that he was having an after-party over at his house. I was going to refuse, but then he said, "Sorry man, but only Anne is invited," while clapping me on the shoulder. I first told him not to touch me, and then said, "She's not going." He informed me that she had already accepted the invitation. I texted Anne immediately to ask where she was. She responded, "Sorry, on the way to Joe's place. I'll see you tomorrow, love you." I asked if she knew I wasn't invited, and she then left me on read. Texts after that were all ignored. I drove home furious. I stayed up all night, and finally Anne walked in the door at 5:42 a.m. I know because I was by the window watching. I recognized the car as Joe's and the driver as Joe. Nobody else was in the car. Anne waved to him cutely and laughed at something he said. Anne came inside and acted surprised to see me still up. At that point, I flatly told her that we were done, and she had the rest of the day to move out. Anne was at first confused with me, and then I told her that she can just move in with Joe. She rolled her eyes and said nothing happened. She gave me this spiel about my insecurities and imagination. I said it didn't matter. After this back and forward arguing, Anne finally relented and sarcastically thanked me for wasting the best years of her life. Anne finally moved out yesterday, and it was pretty dramatic. She said that she loved me and that I was throwing away everything over a party. Did I do her wrong here? I feel like I'm getting gaslighted. Update. About 2 weeks ago, I came here for moral guidance after breaking up with and kicking my girlfriend out for going to an after-party with her male coworker, who outwardly stated that I was not invited. Just about everyone in the post was convinced that Anne had cheated on me with Joe. The moment she left, I felt as if I had lost interest in her, Joe, and both of their lives forever. But a couple of days later, morbid curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to find his Instagram through Anne's. I don't know if I was looking for closure or validation for refusing to even discuss the issue with Anne, but I found both. First, a few hours after Joe drove Anne back to my place, he made an Instagram post about potentially doing a cover for Scotty Doesn't Know by Lustra. The comments were full of people saying he was going to hell with laughing, crying emojis and the shushing emoji. I recognized some of the commenters as people who had attended the party. At first, I didn't know what it was about, but after looking up the lyrics, it became clear. Here's the first line of the song. Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday. So yeah, class act, he is. Catchy song though, but it gets better. I know this wasn't healthy, but I kind of kept up with Anne and Joe's social media. They went full mask off. Another few days later, Joe posted a picture of Anne sitting on his lap. I could tell that based on the sofa he was sitting on, this was not even taken at the after party, but at the party that I went to. I must have been talking to someone else or in the bathroom when it was taken. I will say that I was severely depressed and, on a certain level, probably still am. It wasn't even really about Anne, but that literally nobody from the party was willing to give me a heads up. Anne and I were publicly dating. We showed up together. People knew I was her boyfriend. But I guess when my back was turned, they were laughing at me. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me at this point is why she even wanted to keep me around as a partner. When I kicked her out, she was legitimately upset. Was this a pride issue where she wanted to be the one to dump me? Was it the thrill of screwing around with her coworker behind my back? Or was this some logic that only the human equivalent of a dumpster could understand? I may never know. My brother betrayed my mom by working for the man she hated the most. After she died, he is flipping out on not receiving 50% of inheritance. AITA for refusing his demands. My mom died a few months ago, and she left my brother 40-some money, but I 40-some got most of what she owned. Some background to explain why mom did this, and why my brother is angry. My mom was an only child for 16 years, and she always wanted to get involved in her dad's business. But he didn't want a woman taking over the family business. He was determined to have a son one way or another, and even though mom was prepared to leave school and work for him, by the time her brother came along, he made it very clear that even if there was no son, he would never let her work for him and take over one day. He would rather see the business close. This destroyed my mom. She loved her parents and felt so rejected. Mom's dad didn't get his way, however, because her brother wanted nothing to do with the business and refused to even work for him, let alone take over. My mom was estranged from her dad for many years because her dad made it painfully clear to her that he didn't value a daughter and never would, so mom stepped back. But when he heard mom had a son, he reached out, and when that didn't work, he waited until my brother was 18 and he offered him a job and the chance to run the family business. My mom was shocked, and my brother told her she better not tell him not to accept because he didn't like the fact she kept us from our grandfather and prevented him running the business with the estrangement. Mom and him had a talk. She said she did not want him to grow up with the same disregard for women as her dad. He basically told her to go and fuck herself, and he went to work for her dad. Years passed, and he regretted the strain between him and mom, and dad was disgusted with him too. He reached out after dad died and apologized and told mom he loved her. But things were never the same, and he talked about her dad like he was some amazing hero of a guy, which was so difficult for my mom. So apparently, when mom had her will made, she decided that I should get the most and my brother should get something, but not an equal share, given he had the business, and seemed perfectly okay with her being shut out of it for being born the wrong sex. My brother is hurt and angry about this now that she's gone. He asked me how she could have done this, and why I'm not angry. I told him he betrayed mom, so why would he get half? He tried to say he didn't, but I told him he went to work for her dad anyway, and then basically told her to go fuck herself, and even when they reconciled, he acted like the father who treated her like shit was some amazing person who needed his praises sang all the time. He said I was shitting on him for no real reason. AITA?